Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me. Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me. Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me. Jagannath Swami ki Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivacharya Sutara Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Sheila Prabhupada ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Sheila Prabhupada. You should close the door there. right? Lock it up. Now all of you can't get out. All right, so continuing from last night, as I mentioned yesterday or last night, that I had the good fortune to go to Jagganath Puri, and whilst I was there over the many days prior to Ratha Yatra itself, we were able to witness many wonderful places where Jagannath had his pastimes. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridas Thakur, many of his associates, and not only that, we were also fortunate enough to hear from the local devotees some nice pastimes. Some of them may be printed, some I'm not sure, but the ones that I felt was nice to talk about, I'm going to relate now. So one of the story or pastime that happened is known as the Dhyana Chori festival. Dhyana is a special plant. It has very fragrant leaves and flowers. And Chori means stealing. It seems that Jagannath stole these flowers. Now, every night before the deities Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra put to rest, they normally rest after midnight. So, as I mentioned, they give darshan almost all throughout the day, except maybe 3 to 4 hours. On some days, maybe 5 hours they get to rest, but otherwise they are always giving full darshan, which was one of the boons requested by King Indradumna Maharaj. When he first had, the Lord asked him, "What do you want?" And he said, "This is the boon I wanted." So there's a ritual that they do, that before the deity goes to rest, or after the deity rests, if they find, if the headpiece of Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra is fallen or something, they give it to either the head priest, or they give it to the Pandas, or to the king. Generally, if the headpiece of Jagannath falls down, it goes to the king. Flowers or scarf or some decoration, and it is meant for the well-wishers of the city of Puri or the king himself, like that. If it falls from Subhadra, it goes to the, I was told it goes to the Pandas or the priests. If it falls from Baladev, it goes to the head priest. If it falls from Jagannath, it goes to the king of Puri. It's meant to be auspicious if they receive it. So once the king of Puri, one of the kings, they didn't say exactly who he was, but this king of Puri was addicted to gambling, and dice gambling. So he was always playing, and so he was busy playing dice with his associates in the early morning. So now it so happened that in the night, one of the headpiece of Jagannath fell down. So the priests, they took it and they came running to the king. The king was busy playing the dice, rolling the dice. So they came next to the king and said, "We have prasad from Jagannath," but he wasn't listening. He was more focused on throwing the dice. And then instead he put out his left hand. And the two priests were like, they didn't know what to do, because generally you take things in your right hand and not on the left hand. So in any case, when the king put his left hand out, they put the Jagannath Prasad on his hand and they left. So the king had it in his hand and he was throwing his dice. As he was throwing the dice, he realized, that he made a mistake. And then he just dropped the dice and he looked, and then he said, "Oh my God, I made a big offense." And he felt really, really bad. And then he realized he had committed a great offense to Jagannath, and he realized he didn't give the proper respect to the prasad of Jagannath, and considering it to be a major offense, he decided that he has to do some form of punishment or atonement so that he can pacify or please the Lord and beg for the Lord's mercy. And he realized that he was an useless king trying to enjoy his senses, because he was just playing games, and then he felt really bad about the whole thing. So when he realized that, the king then decided not to eat. So he fasted for a whole week, and he didn't talk to anyone. He took upon himself as a kind of atonement, and so he sometimes when we do some mistake, we also do some kind of ritual, for our own mindset, to make ourselves feel peaceful, like that. So in any case, he came to a decision after a week what kind of punishment he deserved. So then he said to himself, if I took the prasad with the left hand, then this left hand should be chopped off. So he decided that's what he was going to do. But then he was thinking, how am I going to do it? I can't do it myself. I need to get somebody to do this. So he considered for a while, and he came up with a plan. And so he called his minister, whom he trusts a lot, and then he said, every night when I'm sleeping, there's a ghost that puts its hands out and comes after me in the bed. I don't know what to do. And so the minister said, don't worry, we will call the Ghostbusters. So obviously they are the tantrics, so the tantrics came, and then they did a lot of rituals, a lot of puja, and then they assured the king that the ghost is gone. They're very sure, the ghost is gone. And then the king, of course, with the minister, handsomely paid It's all right, You just have to tolerate, There's worse things out there. There's some devotees just having fun out there also. All right, so when they finished the ritual, they assured the minister and the king, everything is fine. And so then the king told the minister, all right, I'll go to bed and see how. So the next morning, when the minister came and asked the king what had happened, and then the king said, no, it didn't get rid of the ghost. Last night the hand came again, and I barely escaped. And then the minister said, okay, in that case, I will take care of this. So why don't you sleep in another room, and I'll sleep in your room. Or I'll sit and wait in your room. So as he waited the night, around midnight, the minister saw through the window a hand coming, and started to move towards the bed. So as soon as he saw that, he got up, he took his sword, and he slashed it and cut the whole hand off. And then the hand fell on the ground. And as it fell, he saw the king standing at the window. And then he realized what he had done, And so he felt so bad. And then the minister realized it was too late. He couldn't do anything. And he began to feel bad. He had just cut the hand of the man who was actually giving him shelter in the country. And the king was so dear to him also. They were practically best friends. But he had just chopped him off. Of course, the king holding his bleeding arms and so on, and told him it's okay, and explained why he wanted the minister to chop his hand off. Because the minister was full of regret, but he took the chopped hand and went to the king's garden. The king's garden is known as Jagannath Vallabha garden. It's a very beautiful garden. It's between the Jagannath temple and the Gundicha, somewhere in the middle. When you go to Jagganath Puri, you'll see that. And there the minister made a samadhi for their hand that he chopped off. And after burying it, then he went home. Now, according to scripture, if the king has bodily defects, like he's got sickness, he's hunched back, if he has loss of limb, he cannot then perform his temple duties. It's there. So, or if he's blind, he cannot do his duties. So therefore, automatically the king lost his service. He goes to the temple and had to do some service. So he had to appoint someone else to do the service on his behalf. Of course, naturally, even though he was addicted to playing this gambling game, dice throwing, he was a great devotee of Jagannath. He loved Jagannath a lot. So now that he has lost his service, he was feeling great separation. Day and night he would think, oh, I can't do my service. He would cry, Now when we don't get to do service, we will just throw a party, I'm free. But the king of Jagannath Puri was feeling great sorrow. He was crying, but after a while he went to his garden, the Jagannath Vallabha, and he wandered around the garden, and he saw many beautiful flowers. He saw tulsi plants. So then he decided to make a garland for Jagannath with tulsi and flowers. And by offering that to Jagannath, he felt satisfied, Not completely, but he felt, I'm doing something for Jagannath. And this went on for a while, and one day he found, as he was walking through the garden, a place where this very, very unique plant was growing. It was so fragrant and so beautiful smell. It was so enticing. But he could not recognize it. He didn't know what plant it was. Obviously, the king seemed to know a lot of botany, But nowadays people don't care about such things, right? When we go out, everything is a grass for us. See, he just opens the door with the phone in his hand. Huh? That's okay. So anyway, when he couldn't understand what kind of plant or flower, he wasn't sure if he could offer it to Jagannath. He really wanted to because the fragrance is so great, so he wanted to offer. The flowers look so beautiful. So he was thinking it would be so nice, but I don't know what flower this is. Now, you can't just offer any flowers to Krishna, okay? There are certain flowers you can and certain flowers you cannot offer. So he was very careful about that. So then he asked the gardener, and the gardener also didn't know what plant it was. And so, anyway, he continued his daily seva, walking through the garden and making garlands. And one day he found the plant that he was keeping an eye on was cut up. And then he was wondering, what happened? Who cut it, So then he asked the gardener. And the gardener said he didn't know who did it. And then later on, the king found out from the priests in the temple that the deities, Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, were decorated with this plant and flowers. So when he found that out, he became very furious. And guess what? He blamed the gardener, because he was the only other person who knew about it. So then he ordered that the gardener didn't know what plant it was or what flower it was, so he told them, arrest that man and off with his head. Like the Queen of Hearts, off with the heads. So anyway, the gardener was arrested and thrown into the prison. So when he was in the prison, the poor gardener, he didn't know what happened. It's a shock, sometimes all of a sudden the king says, I'm having your head tomorrow. And so he started crying in a very piteous way in the prison, all alone. He say, hey Jagannath, what have you done, I've always served you so nicely and I've never done anything wrong. Why am I arrested? I have been so sincere in my duties. It is not my mistake. The plant was cut up. And now I've been punished without good reason. Why are you putting me through this? So he kept on crying, praying, crying and praying. Like that. Sometimes it's painful to see an adult person cry piteously, So in that way he was crying out to Lord Jagannath. He's a devotee of Lord Jagannath also. And so he was crying out to Jagannath. So during the night when the king was sleeping, he had a dream. And guess what? Lord Jagannath appeared in his dream. And Jagannath told him that the gardener is not at fault. He said, why did you arrest him? He's not at fault. He said, he's also my great devotee just like you are. He's also dear to me just like you are. And then Jagannath said, you had a great desire to offer this beautiful flower and the leaves to me. But you were reluctant because you did not know what type of plant it was. You didn't want to commit an offense. But let me tell you, this plant is very special to me. The reason it's special is because as an atonement for your offense, you chopped off your hand. And then it was buried in this samadhi. And these flowers grew on that spot. And so it became very dear to me. And this plant that you do not know is known as Dhyana plant or Dhamana, depending on which part of India you come from. And he said, it is so beautiful, it is so fragrant that now I am attached to it. The Lord is telling the king. And it was I who has been coming every night and cutting the plant. And I've been taking all the leaves and flowers and decorating my brother and sister with it. The gardener is not at fault, so you please release him. And then he said, I'll bless you, my dear king, for your devotion to me, and you will have your hand back. And let the gardener go, and he'll be the person who will decorate me. For tomorrow I want a celebration. And from now on, his name, the gardener's name would be Dhyana Mali. He'll make the garlands like that. And the next day was the month of Chaitra. Chaitra is between March and April. So he said, celebrate tomorrow my stealing of this plant. So every March and April, the Pandas in Jagannath temple, they take the small deities, Krishna and Balaram, and they secretly come into the garden. And then they go to this Dhamana plant and they cut and they wrap it, tie it around both Krishna and Balaram, and they carry them back to the temple. And then they have a big festival at the temple. So that festival is known as Dhamana or Dhyana Chori. So the Lord stole that to please his devotee. But you can see, this king is not ordinary also. Because when he took the garland in his left hand, or the prasad of the deity in his left hand, he really felt that he committed a big offense. And so he decided to chop it off, right? Now, how often have we accepted prasad in our left hand? Huh? Right? Think carefully. How many times we should be chopping our hands off? Obviously not. We are very fallen. But the point is, you can see, he's not an ordinary person. He's really a very special devotee of Jagannath. He loves Jagannath so much. And therefore, you can also see how Jagannath appeared in his dream and told him the whole story. How often do we have Radha and Krishna appearing in our dream and telling us what went wrong? Right? So that is a beautiful pastime. Now there's another pastime that happened when and if you go to Jagganath Puri, in the Singadwara, which is on the main road, right? The main road, when you go there, at the entrance, if you look straight at the entrance, to the right side as you face the entrance, there is a spot where you can see a huge form or deity form of Jagannath. He is known as Patito Pavana, Jagannath. Okay? How this happened took place many hundreds of years ago when the city was run down by the Mughal emperor. At that time, the king who lived, who was the king of Puri, he lived in a city very close to Puri, Kurda. He lived in that city. His name was King Ramachandra Dev. All right? And the emperor, the Mughal emperor, appointed a very powerful general, his name was Taki Khan, to overrun Puri and take over and do whatever he wanted. He was a very nasty person, and like most Mughal generals, he would destroy Hindu temples, ransack the temple, destroy the deities and stuff like that. So when Ramchandra found out what is happening, that Taki Khan was going to be the person or in charge of Puri, he decided to attack the general. So he got his army and he went, and they had a great battle, but he was defeated. Ramchandra Dev was defeated. And in defeat, he was arrested and was taken to Cuttack. It's like another, 20 kilometers from Puri? Yeah, something like that. And in Cuttack, he was put under prison, and there Taki Khan began to harass him on a daily basis. But Ramchandra Dev wasn't worried about himself. He was more now worried about Jagannath temple, because Taki Khan has a bad reputation that he'll go, ransack it, destroy the deities, and he was so worried. So he kept worrying about the temple. In the meantime, Taki Khan was thinking, or rather what he did was, when he got the city of Puri, he started to tax the pilgrims coming to see Jagannath. So he was getting a lot of money. But then the people were complaining, because nobody pays money to come to see the deities, So he started taxing them. And there were a lot of, talk going around. But he didn't want the people to start an opposition. So he decided on a plan, and so he proposed to Ramchandra Dev. He told, why don't you marry my sister? Her name was Rijia. So by marrying, then the people would calm down a bit. And that was his idea. And there won't be any opposition. He was hoping that would happen. Of course, the king refused, because if you marry into the Mughal, then you have to give up your religion, and then you become an outcast. And he was thinking, why should I marry? No. So he refused very strongly. So when Taki Khan left, his sister Rijia, she came. And then she told the king, look, my mother is actually Hindu. My father actually forced her to marry, and now I'm half Hindu. And my mother was a devotee of Lord Jagannath. And I too love Jagannath, even though she was a Muslim lady. And you should marry me, in that way you can save the temple. Because I want the temple to be protected just as you want, you know. But of course he resisted again, because he was thinking this is not the way to do it. And he said, no, you know, I'm not going to marry you. So he rejected the idea the first time. So after a while she came again, and she again said, you know, you need to protect the temple, and I want the temple to be protected. Taki Khan would just destroy everything, and then all the people would suffer, and your Lord will be gone. So then he said, if I marry you or even touch you, I'll be condemned by all the Hindus. What is the point? It's just as bad, you know. Then she said, no, you can marry me, but you don't have to touch me. I will stay away from you, and I'll hold you as my Lord within my heart. You know, she was very gracious like that. And she said, this is more and more, I think about it, it's more important to save the temple. Don't worry about all this thing. So he considered, and he decided this was a very good plan. Vijaya is giving a very good plan. And he was ready to give up his religion to save the temple, protect Jagannath, you know. So he didn't care about himself anymore. So then he married Vijaya, and they changed his name to some Muslim name. And soon enough word spread in Jagganath Puri that the king has become a Muslim. He has married a Muslim woman. And so all the priests in the temple became disappointed. They did not understand or could not understand how the king can give up his religion. And so they started thinking that he is a big fool. Just like sometimes when you are new and you don't know many things, there's a spontaneous way we think, you know, and think, oh, this guy is idiot, he's a fool, you know. Without knowing the whole picture, we can come to some conclusion, right? Oftentimes we do that. But when you know the whole picture, then you know you are the fool, you know, for calling someone a fool like that. So, they immediately restricted the king from entering the temple. Because now he is an untouchable. He's a Muslim. Cannot come to the temple. Don't come. And then they also forbade him, saying that he cannot sweep. Thank you. That he cannot sweep in front of the Ratha cart. The king always sweeps before the Ratha Yatra starts. Yeah. And they also do one other thing for the kings. On every Ekadasi, they light a ghee lamp on top of the temple for the protection of the king. So when they found the king became Muslim, they say, stop that. Immediate punishment. They didn't want him to actually have anything good, you know. So they stopped that. And when the queens, he had a few queens, when the queens, Hindu queens, when they heard he was Muslim, they took their children, packed up all their goodies, and left his palace and went home to their fathers. So when he came back to his palace, he was all alone. Yeah. Right? After so many years, you live with your wives and so on, then suddenly they all walk out on you. How would you feel? How would you feel? Everybody leaving you, right? It's so depressing, so hurtful, and so on. So he was all alone in Kurta palace. and just as Vijaya mentioned, Taki Khan did not attack Jagannath Puri, nor did he destroy the temple. So he let the temple be as it is. So it was good, no? So his plan worked. So the temple wasn't attacked, but now Ramachandra Dev was all alone. Abandoned and rejected by the very people he was protecting and serving. But he always thought about Jagannath in his heart. He started to, think at least Jagannath is with me if all these people have left me. So much faith, So he depended on Jagannath and started praying to him. And because he wasn't allowed to come into the temple, the king decided to go to the temple in the night when after everyone went to sleep. Usually, I guess people go to bed. I don't know, nowadays people go to bed at all times, but I guess maybe after 11 or 12. So he came in the night, he came to the front gate, and then as he thought about Jagannath, the darshan he used to have, he just started crying, and then he started crying out to Lord Jagannath. So he said, "Oh, my dear Jagannath, I have become a Muslim just to protect you. And now everyone has left me." And then he said, "I know you have not rejected me, but I cannot come and have your darshan. I don't know what to do. Will you please let me have your darshan? At least once, let me see your lotus feet." So he would cry for a long time outside the gates. And then before dawn, he would go back home to his palace outside of Puri, in the city of Kurda. So he continued doing this almost every night. He'd come, and then once you start missing, the pain starts getting more and more. So there's a separation thing also going on, and he's feeling so much separation from Jagannath. So every night he comes and he starts crying. He ride his horse to the front gate and he'd cry for Lord Jagannath, So he kept doing this on, and after some time, Jagannath could not handle it. The Lord himself couldn't handle or control his own feelings anymore. He was thinking, this king, what he did it out of devotion for me, and here I am sitting on this amazing throne, and this king can't even get a darshan. So one night Jagannath couldn't handle it. He just stepped down from his singhasana. And then he walked straight to the main temple gates. And then he stood there and he gave darshan to the king. The king, he saw that, he fainted, he got up, he paid obeisances and prayers to the Lord. He was so happy that Jagannath came to see him. And then by dawn, he rode back to his palace. And so the next morning, the priests, when they came, they usually come for Mangala Arati. So when they came, they saw all these flowers strewn all over the place. Normally, at the night when they put Jagannath to rest, after putting Jagannath to rest, they'll lock the gates in front, and then they'll wash the whole place clean. So that everything is clean, and then they'll go. So when they came, there were flowers everywhere. So they're thinking someone must have been here last night. Somebody has, and so they opened to see, and then all over the altar, the flowers were, someone has come in, and we have to make sure nothing happens like that. So they kept watch carefully, and then the next, that evening, they made sure no one was around, and then they locked everything, cleaned, and then they left. The next morning when they came, flowers strewn everywhere, all the way to the front gate. Jagannath was coming every night to see his devotee, Ramachandra Dev. Every night he was coming. And every night and they could not do anything about it, and they could not figure it out. So the Pandas kept talking to each other, and so the head pujari said, "I will fast until Jagannath tells me what is happening." So he took a fast, and then he sat down, and he didn't want to eat, and so continued for a few days, and then he slept one night. And as he was sleeping, Jagannath came to his dream. And then in his dream, Jagannath told the head pujari about the situation of this king. He said, "He has so much love for me. I cannot sit in this asana and not go out to see him. I cannot do this. I cannot not give him my darshan. He is one of the purest devotees that I know of. He is my servant, and I love him like that. And you have all restricted him from coming into the temple." And he cries for me every night, And he said, I cannot take it anymore, so I will go there and I'll give him my darshan. So when the head pujari is like, in the dream, like, what to do? So then Jagannath told him, from today you place my form at the entrance in a small room. When you face it, it's on your right. Anyone can see it when you go. It's not restricted to only Indians or Hindus. So on the right of the gateway, the entrance of the Dwara into the Jagannath temple. So at the very entrance on the right, you'll see a huge deity form of Jagannath. So he said, you place a deity form of myself at the entrance so that the king can take darshan of me every night. But when the Pandas learned about the king's great devotion, they started talking about it, and then the whole city knew about it, and everybody understood the king was a great devotee. But they still did not let him come inside the temple because he's changed his religion. But they decided that they will offer the ghee lamp every Ekadasi for his protection because he's a great king. So this deity that they made, who's in the entranceway, he's known as Patito Pavana Jagannath. So anyone who cannot go into the temple can have his darshan. And he's not made of wood. He's made up of herbs and a lot of minerals. And they form and they place it right on the entranceway. So if you go to Jagganath Puri and if you cannot go in, you can just stand at the gateway and you can take nice darshan of him. So he's as good as Jagannath himself, so you shouldn't worry about it so much. Or you can look at the chakra on top of the temple. So that is also as good as seeing Jagannath. When Haridas Thakur and Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami were not allowed because they also were made into Muslim by the Muslim Qazi or like that. Right, so that's the Ramchandra Dev pastime. So you can again see that the Lord doesn't hesitate to reciprocate with his devotees. Jagannath is very, very amazing like that. He'll go all out to please his devotees. Now another pastime that I was told, this is about a low caste person in Jagannath Puri, and his name was Dasya Bauri. Bauri means low caste, and Dasya means servant. Anyway, that's the name he went by. He belonged to a small village, Bali Gaon, and it's quite near to Puri. Now, from a very young age, he was very much attached to Jagannath. When you grow up in Oriya, everything is centered around Jagannath. So it was natural that he grew up being attached to Lord Jagannath. And one other thing you should understand also is sometimes the Lord sends his devotees to take birth even in low-class family, just to enhance their reputation. Just like Haridas Thakur is a great devotee, but he took birth in a Muslim family like that. So I believe Dasya Bauri was in the same category. Even though he was in a low caste family or village, he had so much love for Lord Jagannath. And it is said that from a very young age he used to write a lot of songs in praise of Lord Jagannath. Like that. And he was married to a very nice lady, and she was always serving him very nicely. So one night, he's so much attached to Jagannath, so one night he was writing a poem praising the Lord, And then his wife, who's been serving him so much, came to his room and she was angry. He said, "You're always busy doing service to Jagannath, but you have neglected the household activities." And then she said, "I have not eaten for the last 4 or 5 days. How can I survive?" And then, of course, he is a very peaceful man. He was surprised though. He said, "How is that possible? You've been feeding me the last 4 or 5 days. You've been giving me food at the right time, and how is it that you have not taken?" Then she said, "You're just an innocent old man, I'm preparing food for you, but I'm not taking the food myself because I am not eating so that you can eat." So when Dasya Bari heard that, he then realized that he has not done his duty to his wife. He realized that she has done her duty and he hasn't. Then he said, "I am not a qualified husband. So if you want, you should go and marry someone more qualified than me." Sounds funny though, but it's kind of silly at the same time. Then she was shocked. He said, "Is that what Lord Jagannath taught you? To speak to me like that? Jagannath may be your Lord, but my Lord is you. You are my husband, you are my Lord," she said. And I cannot tolerate, any pain, and I'll die at your feet, but I cannot, not go and marry someone else like that. So just as they were talking like that, they heard someone from outside their house calling Dasya. "Dasya, Dasya, please come." So he went out, and then the village leader said to him, "Here, take some rice and some money, and please sew a new dress for me," because he's a weaver. And then when he got that, from his point of view, he saw that as Jagannath reciprocating. So immediately he took that and he went to his wife and said, "Look, Jagannath has sent you all this rice and money for you." But of course she's like, what's wrong with him, like that. So then the village leader was saying that he was going to Puri to go and see Lord Jagannath. And then Dasya Bauri was so happy because he always wants to have the darshan of the Lord. He said, "Can I come also?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." And then he said, "But, can you also pay for my trip?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, we'll go, So then they went to after a few days, they went to Lord Jagganath Puri, yeah. And during the festive days, he would visit the homes of Brahmanas, and they would listen to songs that were glorifying Lord Jagannath. He could not understand many things, but he loved to listen about glorification of the Lord. In this way, he was spending most of his time, and at the same time working to maintain himself, and he would do some kirtan. So when they went to the Jagannath Yatra, Ratha Yatra, there were so many people, like I was saying, thousands and millions of people. So many people. He was so excited. And then he saw the Ratha cart with the Jagannath coming. And then as he was taking darshan, he saw the Lord's big form and the big eyes, beautiful wide eyes with the black pupil like that. And he was in ecstasy. He was so happy seeing that. Then he prayed to the Lord, "Lord, I am a sinful person. You please do not neglect me, You please enlighten me. You are the deliverer of the fallen. Please deliver me, my Lord." So he got up and said, "You're the only truth in this universe. Don't worry, it didn't disturb me." No, honestly, it didn't disturb me. And then he said, "Everything is false. You are everything to me." And simply by seeing Jagannath, his love really blossomed. The true feelings took over and he went into ecstasy. So then after the Ratha Yatra, he was constantly thinking of the Lord's form and his beautiful eyes. So when he came home, his wife, arranged for him to take his meal. So after he washed his hands and feet, he sat down and his wife served him in a clay plate. The clay is red in color. And then she put the rice on top. So the rice is oh, this thing is touching the pad. Sorry about that. So she placed the plate, which was red in color, and then she put the rice on top of it. So that's red, and then on top was rice, and then she had this spinach she had made for him, and the spinach was overcooked. And so guess what color it was? Huh? Yeah, almost black, So then when she put the spinach right in the middle of the rice. So then when Dasya sat down, he looked at the plate and he saw Jagannath's eyes. So then he went into ecstasy, he said, Jagannath, Jagannath, Jagannath. Then he started to dancing. Oh, look, this is the white lotus eyes of my Lord, Jagannath. How can I eat this? So he started dancing. Then the wife got confused. What's wrong with my husband, He's become crazy, So then she went out and called the village leaders to come, please have a look at my husband. He's not eating, he's just jumping and screaming and crying, and it's a strange behavior. So they all came, and they saw how he was mad. So then they asked Dasya, he said, why are you jumping like this and not eating your rice? Then he said, it looks just like the eyes of my Lord, Jagannath. How can I eat this? How can I eat this? So then they realized he was really feeling the love of God, They said, you are so glorious, you have developed this love of God, How did you manage this? Oh, Lord Jagannath is so merciful to you. And so then they told his wife, please serve the rice and the spinach in 2 separate bowls. So then she took the spinach out and put the rice in one bowl and spinach in one bowl. Then he felt normal. Then he sat down and ate it like that, peacefully. But as you can see, his intensity and his love for Jagannath has become more and more stronger. And he kept remembering all the karatal sounds during the Ratha Yatra, the gongs, and then the bell, the mridanga, like that. So whenever he heard anything material, he felt this, it's not good. He wasn't happy. But when he heard anything about Jagannath, he became so happy like that. And in this way, he began to control all his senses. And whenever he closed his eyes, he would see Jagannath. Jagannath became so dear to him. Day and night he would be thinking of Jagannath. So one day, he wanted to... So one day he went to a Brahmana's place, and this Brahmana had a coconut tree. And then there was a very young coconut growing. And then immediately he was thinking, I want to give it to Jagannath. So he asked the Brahmana, please give me that and I'll give you something for it. But the Brahmana was greedy, so he said, you have nice cloth, he's a weaver, so you give me that cloth. Generally, Dasya would sell the cloth to maintain his home and so on. But this Brahmana was greedy. He said, I will exchange for your cloth. And but he wasn't worried. He just wanted the coconut to give his Lord. So he got the coconut, and then he found out another Brahmana was going to Puri, who he had bought a cartload of fruits and milk and stuff he was taking to Lord Jagannath. So then Dasya told him, please, take this coconut to Lord Jagannath and then you offer to him. But you do not leave it there. You just hold it in your hand and tell Jagannath, you please take it personally. Otherwise, if you don't take it, you are not getting it. And then the Brahmana laughed at him. What is this guy? He's a clown or what? Why is he telling me this thing? But he laughed and he said, all right, I'll do it anyway. So Dasya told him that he needed to bring the coconut into the temple itself. And now there is a Garuda Stamba in front of the deities. So he said, stand there and you just offer. And Jagannath must use his hand to take it. Otherwise you don't offer him. So then you tell Jagannath that his servant Dasya is offering this coconut and he should take it. So the Brahmana went, he gave all the cart of fruits to the Pandas or the priest, but then he remembered, the coconut, So he walked to the Garuda Stamba, and then he stood there and he said, Jagannath, your servant Dasya wants you to have this and you must take it by your hand. So as he put it up, immediately Jagannath's hand came out and took it. He was shocked. And then he was like, what has happened, Let me see what happened. But then this is what happened. He was like really shocked. It happened so suddenly. And everybody saw the hand suddenly come and take the coconut and go. And in this way they realized Dasya was a great devotee of Lord Jagannath, And of course the Brahmana, because he was holding the coconut and the Lord took it, he felt great ecstasy also. So he realized the position of Dasya, that he is an unalloyed devotee. So on another day, Dasya was on his own going to Jagannath temple. So this time when he came there, he saw a mango vendor selling lots of mango outside the gate. So he decided to offer mangoes to Jagannath. So he bought like 20 mangoes. So when he was coming to the temple, the Pandas came out, the priests, and they said, we will offer the mangoes, you don't... And he said, no, I want to offer. Then another Panda came, another priest. So they all started to come and fight among themselves. No, I will offer. So then Dasya said, no, nobody is offering. So he walked out a bit. He didn't go into the temple. He said, I will offer personally myself, And then he looked at the chakra on top of the temple, and then he said, when he looked at the chakra, he saw Jagannath smiling at him. So he offered, and then he said, my Lord, you please enjoy this mango yourself, What is the need of these Brahmanas fighting for who's going to offer unnecessarily? So after this, he picked up 2 mangoes, and he said, Jagannath, you please take. And then right in front of the Pandas, the mangoes disappeared. Then slowly he took 2 more and said, Jagannath, you please take. Zoom. So they were thinking this guy is doing some black magic, So he continued like that for like 10 times and all the mangoes were gone. So they were like, where is this mango? What happened to the mango? He said, go in the altar. It's there. So they rushed inside and then they could see all the mango skin all over the place on the altar. The mango seeds had been sucked. Jagannath had practically eaten all the 20 mangoes, So then they realized that this Dasya is not an ordinary person. The Pandas said, you are special and Lord Jagannath has therefore blessed you like that. Of course, the Pandas, being proud, they say, we understand now Jagannath loves you, so we will give you blessings also. So, so then Dasya said, oh, you are so kind, and he fell on their feet, touched their feet, and then they blessed him. He said, now I'm saved. The Brahmanas have blessed me. I'm going back to the Lord like that, So then he stood up and he said, oh my Lord, I've been blessed by all these people, Will you kindly show me your forms of all the Dasa avatar? So just as he said that, the Lord showed him all the 10 forms above the temple, one after another. And then after he saw that, he said, I am now delivered, and then he left. So in Jagganath Puri, when I was there, the locals say that during Ratha Yatra, when the cart comes out with all the deities, you can take any fruit and show to Jagannath and say, Jagannath, take this. And that's it, it's prasadam. So we were traveling with some Chinese devotees, and there was a little girl, and she wanted to do an offering for the Lord. So she made some Chinese noodles. And so when the cart came, she was shy, but then she held it up, and then thousands of people are watching, and then she offered, and then after that she gave it to all of us, and it was really tasty. Jagannath had noodles on Ratha Yatra day. So this is really, really nice. So anyone can do that. You don't have to be a Brahmana or anything. When you see Jagannath in the cart, you can just put out your hand with the boga and say, Jagannath, please accept this. And then it becomes immediately prasada. So nice. Jagannath is so nice like that. And then another pastime. This time it's about a wealthy merchant from South India, Hyderabad. His name is Dhananjaya Mehta. It is said this thing happened in 1727. So this merchant, very wealthy, he came to Jagganath Puri with his family, but he had no faith in the Lord. He had no faith in the Supreme Lord. But he was very proud of his money, So then, just like any proud person with money, he decided to challenge Jagannath. He thought this is strange, people worshipping wood, stuff like that. So he understood the food is offered to deities many times daily. So he publicly said he would donate 100,000 rupees to Jagannath if the temple cooks could spend all of the money in one offering, one prasad, one boga, like that. He's such a rascal, no? In those days, you must understand, 100,000 rupees is as good as $1 million or more, like that. So, and the fruits and vegetables were so cheap. A couple of paisa and you get so much vegetables and fruits. Even 100 rupees was enough to buy ingredients for one offering of food, So then the cooks were like, what would we cook with $100,000, So it created kind of problem for Jagannath's cooks and worshippers, because he was publicly declaring a challenge to the Lord, and they were sad to see such an attitude on a part of a person who acts like a devotee. Of course, the priests discussed about what to do. Should we tell him that this is exorbitantly too much money to give Jagannath? But then they were thinking, how could we do that? We know Jagannath is the Supreme Lord, the Lord of the universe. Everything belongs to him, so you can't say it's too much. We can't ask him for smaller donation. So how can we handle this? At that time, the most expensive thing is ghee or butter. But even then, how much ghee or butter can they use for one preparation? So they were really in a difficult predicament. And this millionaire from Hyderabad was giving them such a bad time. So if you go to Jagannath temple, you could buy prasad actually. Inside Jagannath temple they have a place where they have a lot of stores where they sell Mahaprasadam, And the famous store is Anand Bazaar, and you can get lots of prasad from them. Okay, so then because the cooks didn't know what to do, they decided after discussing among themselves that they will pose the problem to Jagannath himself. Right? I mean, we don't do such thing, no? We probably call a meeting, call a GBC, and then make some decisions. Right? But over there, they're like, hey, what to do? Hey, Jagannath, you answer. We are at our wits' end, you have to answer, you take over now, Let Jagannath's will prevail, He's not a man of flesh, blood, and prayed to for simple response. Let us do a group prayer. So they got together and they made a very heartfelt prayer to Jagannath. They said, "Oh Jagannath, please choose the food you desire that this guy is asking. So you tell us what food that we can cook that will cost so much." So at that time, Dhananjaya, the merchant, is like, he's thinking, I've got these guys, now they, what is this Jagannath, And then he was thinking, okay, I have to go back to my business in Hyderabad. So then he asked the head priest to come and see him the next morning to tell him what the decision is. Are they going to cook something for Jagannath? So the head priest came and told him, "No, we are waiting for Jagannath to reply." So when he heard that, he was like, "Oh, I've got them now, That's exactly what I want, They are defeated now." So then he wanted to see them suffer. So he extended his stay in Puri. So he stayed a little longer. But actually the Lord is having a plan to handle this guy. Now, of course, for the Lord, $100,000 is nothing, He's the Lord of the universe, innumerable universe. He's the master of Lakshmi herself, So, after, I think a couple of days later, the head pujari had a dream. So Jagannath comes, oftentimes he reveals himself to many devotees in dreams. So in the dream, Jagannath answered the head priest's prayer. And so he told him, "Let this guy, Dhananjaya, offer me a piece of pan." You know pan? Pan is like tobacco leaf. They put some lime and then some betel, and then they fold it, and that's it. It's actually very cheap, very cheap. Less than a few cents you can get the leaf and all the lime and stuff like that. But then Jagannath said, the betel nut in the pan leaf must be smeared not with lime. So he said, "I don't want lime, but from a finely ground pearl." And then he says, "This pearl is not from an oyster. The pearl must come from a bull elephant." In between the elephant, it's not all elephants have them, but some elephants have, and they develop a pearl inside their foreheads like that. So then the head priest, he woke up, quickly ran to Dhananjaya. He said, "Jagannath has spoken." And then he described what Jagannath wanted. Pan, and then he's like, "Oh, pan, I can give you thousands of pan." And then betel, but then you must spear this dust, finely ground dust from a pearl, not from an oyster, but from a bull elephant. When he heard that, he collapsed. Because how do you know which elephant has a pearl? And one elephant costs about $100,000 rupees. So he may have to go through hundreds and thousands of elephants just to get one pearl. And if he's lucky. So then he realized that he was defeated. He really, and then his face just went long. And then he knew he made a big mistake, big blunder. And so he always wore a turban, big, nice zamindar-like, proud guy. So then he took his turban, put it down, took the chadar, put it out around his waist, and then he ran to the temple with his turban and all the rupees that he had. And then people seeing him run to the temple also kept running after him to see what was going to happen. So then the Lord simply defeated this millionaire in his own dollar and cents game, His pride was crushed. So he ran before the deity, he came in front, he fell down, and he started crying. He realized this is not ordinary. Because what the Lord has requested seemed simple, but at the same time he knew he cannot meet that. So he started crying, and he gave up his pride, and then he openly declared that the Lord is supreme, that he was a fool, and he said, "You please take all this thing and accept only the sweet smelling red beetle of my heart." And then Jagannath was pleased with him like that. Jagannath Swami ki jai. So it's about 8:45 now. I guess I can hold off here, or what I can do is I can go through what are the 56 items that are offered to Jagannath. Do you want to know? Okay, get ready. I'll go one at a time. Sugar-coated puff rice, the rice that is puffed up. So they put some sugar, they offer that. And then coconut laddu, condensed milk, yogurt, ripe banana, flavored rice, dry khichdi, and then cake, fried cake, pancake, sweet cake, dosa like pancake, idlis. They make a kind of a paste, chutney called ginger chutney paste. They do a fried leafy vegetables. This is item 15. Fried plantain, chili laddu, small size cake, and then they have some kind of a vadas. Sweet fried cake made of rice flour, and then they from a sweet, they make a sweet from gram flour in small granules. Then they have rice in water, cooked. And then they have sweet rice. And then they have another type of a yellow sweet called kadamba. And then they have another sweet made of laddu, basin or something called manohar. Then they have these sweets shaped like tongue. And then they have a different type of cake, a salty cake. And then they make a dal with vegetables. And then they have another type of fried sweet cake. So there's many cakes going on. Huh? Salty biscuits. So now those in Sydney, you all should remember this, because you should offer this to your lordships, Jagannath, Balaji and Subhadra. Malpua, you have heard of that, sweet puri. Then poda pita, it's a baked cake. And then black gram cake. Maybe it's made from urad dal. Small ball shaped cakes. And then kasta puri, fried plantain, it's a different type of plantain. Arisha, another type of fried cakes. Sugar chutney, sakar chutney. Pand cake. Sour rice. Then yogurt rice. And then they have another kind of cake called Bada Arisa, big cakes. He really likes his cakes, huh? We can say, you can't have your cake and eat it too, but he sure can. And then he have these fillings, 3 types of fillings. Then sugar candy, semolina in milk, boiled green gram, a manohar, a different type of sweet. Then laddu, and then pana, type of drink, plain rice, ghee rice, and dali, a sweet kind of dal. Then they have a mixed vegetable curry, and then they have vegetable curry with mustard seeds, and then the last one, 56th item, is leafy vegetables. So these are the 56 kind of items. I guess they can have more different varieties, but 56 kind of items offered to Jagannath. And then there are these interesting things that are said to be divinely inspired. People can't answer that. I tried looking at some of these things. I couldn't figure it out. So they say the flag on top of Jagannath, they put a flag. Every day they change the flag. It's huge. One pujari will go up and they change the flag every day. So it's a different color. But they say the flag always flies or flaps in the opposite direction of the wind. So if the wind is blowing from the north, then the flag is pointing to north. I don't know, I looked at it and it didn't seem like that. And then another interesting thing they all say is, from any part of Puri, if you look at the chakra, it's always facing you. That seemed true, somewhat, yeah. So no matter where you are, you can always see the chakra. So that was interesting, yeah. And they say there's no bird or planes fly above the temple. I saw a few birds flying. So I don't know, because from my angle, it could be, the birds may be flying, but may not be over the temple, so. And another interesting thing they say is the main dome, the shadow of the main dome, you cannot see it at any time of the day. The dome, the huge dome. So when the sun shines, the shadow doesn't fall anywhere. You cannot see it. It's the way it's constructed, so you can't see the shadow. And they also say this, I don't know how true it is, that the quantity of cooked food inside the temple remains the same for the entire year. But the same quantity of prasadam can feed from a few thousand to 2 to 3 million people. And it never gets wasted. That I can agree. They're always eating and everyone is just eating happily, you know. Yeah, once you go inside the temple, this is true also, you cannot hear anything from outside. I felt that. It's amazing. You just walk inside the temple, everything is gone. It's the way it's constructed, I believe. The sound cannot reverberate, you know, you can't hear anything. Yeah. Okay, so any comments, questions? Yeah. Yeah, I was shocked also to read that. Yeah, they don't use chili. They don't use things that are not grown in Bharatvarsha. They say chili, eggplant, potatoes, tomatoes. They are all foreign plants, so they don't use that. So I was kind of surprised. Maybe it could be black pepper. Yeah, so I don't know. I just saw the list and I was surprised as well. Yeah, thanks for highlighting. Yes, Prabhu. How many of the practices mean? Jagganath Puri. I'm not sure. I don't know. You have to understand that in Puri, the standard of worship for Jagannath is like, they are like spontaneous, you know. They have rules they follow, but it's very relaxed rules. There's a pastime where Ramanuja Acharya went to Jagannath Puri, and he's a great Acharya, and so when he came and he saw how they were worshipping Jagannath. So he told them, this is wrong, this is how you should do the artis, how you should do the ceremony, how you should dress them. So the Pandas, they know Ramanuja Acharya is such a great person, so they tried to follow, but they were not happy actually. So in the night, this is what I heard, in the night when Ramanuja Acharya was sleeping, Jagannath came in the dream, and he told Ramanuja Acharya, don't mess with my... don't mess with my servants, I don't want you to come here and change all this. And he kicked him. Yeah, so he kicked him all the way from Puri to South India. Not just him, his whole entourage of his disciples, everyone. They woke up the next day, they were all in South India. So, as to the standard of worship we do in ISKCON, I believe you can check the Pancharatrika Vidhi, ISKCON, I guess they follow that, yeah. But we could follow some of this thing also, like, cooking nice offering and stuff like that, as long as it comes from the heart, the Lord will accept it, That's what we are trying to practice, all of us, relating these pastimes and so on, so that we can also develop that spontaneity in wanting to love and embrace Lord Jagannath, It would be nice like that. Is that all right? Yeah. Yeah. He came just before the before the Ratha Yatra started. They started around 10 o'clock in the morning. We saw how they built the cart also. Right in the street they were building it. It's amazing. And they did it within 24 hours. Yeah, you've seen it? Yeah. So fast they do it. And, No, we just saw that, very quickly. We saw, maybe more than 24 hours. But, yeah, it was within 24 hours we saw the whole thing was done, Yeah, and they never use any nails, no screws, nothing like that. Everything was cut. And the people who do it have been doing it for generations. It's like they teach the skill. And so all the joints, they just click in, click, And after the end of the Ratha Yatra, they disassemble everything and give it away as prasad. You can get if you have a friend there, you can ask them to get it for you and ship it here. Hopefully the immigration don't stop saying wood items can't come in. But you can get the wheels, and you can put it right up here, and people can come and take darshan of Jagannath's wheels. But yeah, it's possible. You can buy those after the Ratha Yatra. And so at 10 o'clock they start, and so they do, each time the deities come, they do a few elaborate rituals. It goes for a couple of hours. So about from 10 to 3 they were doing that. So the king came around 2 o'clock, 1 to 2 o'clock, I think so. Then he had to do some ceremony with each deity. After that, then he goes in front, and then he starts sweeping. And then the Ratha Yatra starts. It's just far out and amazing. In Rajpur, I don't know if I mentioned it yesterday or not, that's in Mayapur, we have Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra deities. One of the Gurukul boys, when he was a little boy, they went to the Jagannath temple, and at that time I think they had the curtain closed. So while the Gurukul boys were going, this boy went into behind the curtain and went inside. And then he saw Baladev was wearing something, so he went to take it, So he went to take the jewel from Baladev, and then Baladev took his hand and slapped him in his face. Bang! And it's a Gurukul boy. So he came out running, crying, saying, Baladev hit me, So he had the fingerprint on his face for a few weeks, So the Lord is there. It's just that we have to actually, do our duties properly, and then the Lord will reveal Himself. Yeah. All right. So it's 9 o'clock. Thank you very much for your kind attention, all of you. And I'll be leaving tomorrow, so I want to thank all of you for having me here in Sydney. I had very nice time here. Hopefully I can come back again and have your nice association. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Radha Gopinath Jai Shri Radha Gopinath Ki Jai Jagannath